Krixtar flexed his 4 massive arms as he studied the holographic display floating before him in the dimly lit cantina. The Vorthak warrior stood nearly 8 feet tall, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming black under the pulsing neon lights. Scars crisscrossed his armored hide, each one a testament to countless battles across the galaxy. His reputation as the most feared mercenary in the Outer Rim was well earned through decades of successful hunts. The cantina buzzed with the usual mix of smugglers, pirates, and information brokers, but none dared approach his table. Even the most hardened criminals knew better than to disturb Krixtar when he was reviewing a contract. His compound eyes swept over the details of his latest assignment, mandibles clicking with interest. Target species: human, he read aloud, his voice a low rumble that could shake reinforced glass. Origin: third planet of the Sol system. Designation: sapient bipedal mammals. Threat level. He paused, mandibles spreading in what passed for amusement among his kind. Minimal. A thin, nervous Zephyrian approached his table, tentacles writhing with anxiety. This was Velnox, his usual contact for high-paying assignments. The blue-skinned alien slithered closer, keeping a respectful distance. The client is offering 2 million galactic credits for this hunt, Velnox said, his voice barely above a whisper. More than double your usual rate. Krixtar's massive head turned toward his contact, compound eyes focusing with predatory intensity. Double rate for a minimal threat species? That seems unusual. The client was very specific about wanting you for this job, Velnox explained, producing a datapad with trembling appendages. Apparently, several other mercenary groups have declined the contract. Number 5. Declined? Krixtar's laugh was like grinding metal. What mercenary in their right mind would decline 2 million credits for hunting primitives? Krixtar's laugh. Krixtar's laugh. Krixtar's laugh was like grinding metal, people. The Bloodclaw Syndicate, the Razor Fleet, even the Death's Head Company, Velnox listed, his voice growing smaller with each name. All of them refused once they learned the target species. This gave Krixtar pause. These weren't rookie mercenaries afraid of a little blood. The Bloodclaw Syndicate had massacred entire star systems. The Razor Fleet had brought down governments. Death's Head Company had eliminated threats that entire military fleets couldn't handle. For all of them to refuse a contract against a minimal threat species was unusual. Show me their files, Krixtar demanded. The holographic display shifted, showing detailed biological and psychological profiles of the target species. Krixtar studied the humans with growing disdain. They were small, averaging only 6 feet in height. No natural armor, no claws, no venomous fangs. Their technology was primitive compared to galactic standards. They had barely managed to colonize their own solar system. They look pathetic, he growled, zooming in on an image of a human soldier. Soft pink flesh, small stature, limited physical capabilities. What could possibly make other mercenaries afraid of hunting these creatures? Velnox shifted uncomfortably. There are rumors. Rumors? Krixtar's voice carried a dangerous edge. Stories from the few mercenaries who have encountered humans and lived to tell about it. They speak of something called human unpredictability and persistence hunting behavior. But these are just tales told by failed hunters trying to save face. Krixtar dismissed the concerns with a wave of one massive arm. Throughout his career, he had hunted everything from the 6-armed Krillian death dancers to the energy-based void wraiths of the Nebula cluster. He had tracked down rogue psionics who could tear apart starships with their minds. He had cornered shapeshifters who could mimic any form imaginable. No species in the galaxy had proven too dangerous for him to handle. I have brought down creatures that could level cities with a thought, he boasted. I have hunted beings made of pure energy across 3 star systems. These humans are nothing more than slightly evolved primates. I will complete this contract within a standard week. The datapad displayed more information about the specific targets. A small colony ship called the New Horizon had gone off course during a routine terraforming mission. It carried approximately 300 humans, including military personnel, scientists, and civilians. The ship had crash-landed on Zarian Prime, a harsh desert world in the contested zone, where legal jurisdiction was unclear. The client wants proof of elimination for all humans aboard the vessel, Velnox explained. No survivors, no witnesses. Simple enough, Krixtar said, downloading the contract details to his personal system. I assume the client has no preference for how the elimination is carried out? I having the 40 pros. None whatsoever. The client emphasized that discretion and thoroughness are more important than speed. Krixtar stood to his full intimidating height, causing several nearby patrons to quickly look away. His personal arsenal was impressive even by mercenary standards. Plasma cannons mounted on his back, molecular disruptors built into his arm gauntlets, and a collection of melee weapons designed for close combat. His ship, the Bone Crusher, was equipped with enough firepower to level small cities. Payment arrangements? Half now, half upon confirmation of mission completion. Velnox transferred the first 1,000,000 credits to Krixtar's account. The mercenary's personal scanner confirmed the transaction almost immediately. As Krixtar prepared to leave, Velnox reached out with one trembling tentacle. There's one more thing. The client specifically requested that you record the hunt for their personal collection. A trophy hunter, Krixtar mused. How delightfully savage. I will provide them with footage that will satisfy even the most bloodthirsty tastes. The massive Vorthak warrior strode through the cantina toward the exit, lesser beings scrambling to get out of his way. Outside, the spaceport buzzed with activity, as ships of various sizes and origins came and went. The Bone Crusher sat in Docking Bay 17, its dark hull bristling with weapon systems. As he approached his ship, Krixtar activated his communication system to contact his ship's artificial intelligence. Nav, set course for Zarian Prime. Maximum speed. Course plotted and ready, Krixtar, the AI responded in a cold mechanical voice. Estimated travel time. 47 standard hours. Good. Begin full weapons diagnostics and prepare hunting protocols. Inside his ship, Krixtar reviewed the mission details once more. The desert planet Zarian Prime was known for its harsh climate and dangerous native wildlife. Temperatures during the day could reach levels that would kill most galactic species, while nights brought freezing cold that could crack bone. The human ship had crashed in the equatorial region, the most hostile part of an already hostile world. The environment will do half the work for me, he said to himself, settling into his pilot's chair. These soft creatures won't last long in conditions that would challenge even hardened mercenaries. The Bone Crusher's engines roared to life, lifting the deadly vessel from the spaceport and into the star-filled void of space. As they entered hyperspace, Krixtar began planning his approach. Standard hunting doctrine suggested multiple strategies, depending on the target species and environment. For primitive species like humans, the most effective approach was usually overwhelming firepower followed by systematic elimination of survivors. His ship's sensors could easily detect life signs from orbit, and his plasma cannons could eliminate large groups from a safe distance. Any survivors could be hunted down individually using traditional tracking methods. He spent hours reviewing tactical data, studying the crash site location, and analyzing possible human survival strategies. According to his files, humans were primarily tool users with limited natural survival instincts. They relied heavily on technology and group cooperation. Without their ship's life support systems and emergency supplies, they would be completely dependent on whatever they could scavenge from the wreckage. 48 hours at most, he estimated. The heat alone will force them to seek shelter, making them easy to locate and eliminate. As the ship traveled through hyperspace, Krixtar prepared his equipment. He selected his favorite weapons for this type of hunt. Long-range plasma rifles for distant targets, molecular disruptors for close encounters, and traditional blade weapons for any hand-to-hand combat that might be necessary. Though given the size and apparent frailty of humans, he doubted melee combat would be required. The ship's computer provided detailed analysis of human physiology and psychology. They appeared to be pack hunters who had evolved from persistence predators, but their modern society had made them soft and dependent on technology. Their reaction times were slower than most galactic species. Their strength was minimal, and they lacked any natural weapons or defenses. Like hunting children. Crixtar laughed, running a massive claw along the edge of his favorite blade. This will be the easiest 2 million credits I've ever earned. Oh. As the bone crusher dropped out of hyperspace near Xerion Prime, Crixtar felt the familiar thrill of beginning a new hunt. The desert planet hung before him like a giant amber jewel, its surface scarred by endless sandstorms and baked by twin suns. According to his sensors, the human crash site was located in a canyon system roughly 200 kilometers from the equator. Perfect, he rumbled with satisfaction, trapped in a canyon with nowhere to run and no help coming. These humans chose the worst possible location to crash. The ship's sensors began their scan of the crash site, detecting life signs and analyzing the wreckage. What they found surprised him slightly. The human ship had broken apart on impact, scattering debris across several kilometers. But instead of the chaos and random distribution he expected, the wreckage appeared to have been deliberately arranged. Interesting, he mused, studying the sensor data. They're using their ship's remains as building materials. Showing some basic survival instincts after all. The life sign readings showed approximately 280 humans still alive, scattered across multiple locations within the canyon system. They had established what appeared to be a main settlement near the largest piece of wreckage, with smaller groups positioned at various strategic points throughout the canyon. Organized resistance, Crixtar noted with approval. This might provide some minor entertainment after all. As he prepared for orbital bombardment, a strange pattern in the sensor readings caught his attention. The humans weren't just randomly hiding in the canyon. They had positioned themselves in locations that would be difficult to target from orbit, using the natural rock formations and their ship's debris to create defensive positions. Clever little creatures, he admitted grudgingly. But cleverness won't save them from superior firepower. The Bone Crusher's weapon systems powered up, preparing to rain death from above upon the stranded humans below. Crixtar's confidence began to waver as his orbital bombardment yielded unexpected results. The plasma blasts that should have vaporized entire sections of the human settlement instead struck empty rock and abandoned debris. His sensors showed the life signs had scattered moments before each attack, as if the humans had somehow predicted exactly where his weapons would target. Impossible, he growled, adjusting his targeting systems. Primitive species don't have that level of technological sophistication. He tried a different approach, targeting what appeared to be their main water source. The blast superheated the rock pool, sending steam and smoke billowing through the canyon. But instead of the panicked scatter he expected, his sensors detected organized movement. The humans were redirecting their activities to secondary locations they had apparently prepared in advance. After 6 hours of orbital bombardment that consumed nearly 30% of his ship's ammunition reserves, Crixtar was forced to admit that the aerial assault wasn't working. The humans had somehow prepared for exactly this type of attack, creating a defensive network that made orbital targeting nearly impossible. Ground assault it is, he decided, powering down his ship's main weapons. Let's see how well these creatures fight when faced with a real predator. The Bone Crusher descended through Xerion Prime's atmosphere, its heat shields glowing as the ship fought through the planet's turbulent winds. Crixtar selected a landing site approximately 5 kilometers from the main crash site, far enough away to avoid any potential traps but close enough for a direct assault approach. As his ship touched down on the rocky desert floor, Crixtar activated his personal combat systems. His exoskeleton's environmental controls adjusted to the planet's harsh conditions, regulating his body temperature and filtering the thin atmosphere. Multiple weapon systems came online, from the plasma cannons mounted on his shoulders to the molecular disruptors built into his gauntlets. Nav, maintain orbital surveillance, and provide tactical updates. He ordered his ship's AI as he stepped onto the planet's surface. Acknowledged. Current human life signs, 273 individuals. Weather conditions, stable. Local wildlife activity, minimal. Crixtar began his approach to the canyon system, his massive form moving with surprising grace across the desert terrain. His compound eyes scanned constantly for signs of human activity, while his ship's sensors provided real-time updates on enemy positions. The twin suns beat down mercilessly, turning the desert into a furnace that would have killed most galactic species within hours. But Krixtar's Vorthak physiology was well adapted to extreme environments. If anything, the heat reminded him of his homeworld's volcanic regions. As he approached the canyon entrance, something felt wrong. His predator instincts, honed through decades of hunting, were sending warning signals. The area was too quiet. No movement, no sounds, no electromagnetic signatures that would indicate human activity. Nav, confirm human positions in the target zone. Sensors show significant life sign activity approximately 2 kilometers ahead, concentrated in the central canyon area. Krixtar moved forward cautiously, his weapon systems at ready status. The canyon walls rose around him, creating natural choke points and limiting his ability to maneuver. For a hunter of his experience, this should have been routine. Canyon fighting was textbook tactical situation that he had encountered dozens of times before. The first sign of human activity came as a faint metallic glint from a ledge high above. Krixtar's enhanced reflexes kicked in as he dove for cover just as something whistled through the air where his head had been moments before. The projectile struck the canyon wall behind him with enough force to chip the rock. Projectile weapons, he noted with amusement, throwing rocks like primitive apes. But as he examined the projectile embedded in the stone, his amusement turned to surprise. It wasn't a thrown rock or crude spear. It was a precisely machined metal spike, clearly manufactured from salvaged ship components. The craftsmanship was surprisingly sophisticated for survivors who had been stranded for less than a week. Movement caught his attention from multiple directions. Shadows flitted between the rock formations above, moving with coordinated precision that spoke of military training. These weren't panicked refugees scrambling for survival. They were organized, disciplined, and apparently well prepared for his arrival. Interesting, Krixtar mused, raising his plasma rifle toward the nearest movement. Someone has military experience among their number. The shot that followed should have vaporized whatever human had been foolish enough to show themselves. Instead, it struck empty air as his target somehow anticipated the blast and moved to safety with impossible speed. More troubling, the shot revealed his position to other humans hidden throughout the canyon. What happened next challenged everything Krixtar thought he knew about human capabilities. Instead of the chaotic resistance he expected, the humans launched a coordinated counterattack that demonstrated tactical sophistication far beyond their supposed technological level. Projectiles began raining down from multiple directions, not randomly but in calculated volleys designed to suppress his movement while other attackers repositioned. The humans weren't just hiding and hoping to survive. They were actively hunting him. "This is impossible," he growled, activating his personal energy shields as another salvo of metal spikes clattered against the canyon wall around him. My intelligence files indicated minimal threat assessment. A new sound caught his attention. A low, rhythmic pounding that seemed to echo from the canyon walls themselves. It took him several moments to realize what he was hearing. The humans were communicating through percussion signals, coordinating their attacks using a code system that his universal translator couldn't decipher. "Nav, are you detecting any electronic communications from the human positions?" "Negative. No electromagnetic signatures consistent with technological communication devices." "Then how are they coordinating these attacks?" "Unknown. Possible explanations include acoustic communication, visual signals, or predetermined tactical protocols." Krixtar's respect for his prey increased slightly. Whatever primitive methods they were using, the humans were demonstrating combat effectiveness that exceeded his expectations. But respect didn't translate to concern. He had faced organized resistance before, and his superior technology and physical capabilities had always proved decisive. He activated his thermal imaging systems, expecting to easily identify human heat signatures against the cooler canyon walls. What he saw made him pause. There were heat signatures throughout the canyon, but they didn't match standard human thermal patterns. Some were too hot, others too cool, and several seemed to be moving in ways that defied basic biology. Thermal camouflage, he realized with growing annoyance. They're using their ship's salvaged materials to mask their heat signatures. A sharp crack echoed through the canyon as something struck his left shoulder cannon with tremendous force. The impact didn't penetrate his armor, but it did knock the weapon off target. When he looked up to identify the source of the attack, he saw something that made his compound eyes widen in surprise. A human figure stood on a ledge roughly 50 meters above him, holding what appeared to be a makeshift railgun constructed from ship components. The weapon was crude but clearly effective, using electromagnetic principles to accelerate projectiles at tremendous velocity. Impossible, he breathed. They couldn't have manufactured that kind of technology from crashed debris in less than a week. The human on the ledge shouted something in their native language, and immediately the entire canyon erupted in coordinated activity. More humans appeared from concealed positions, each carrying improvised weapons that showed surprising sophistication. Some had electromagnetic launchers like the first. Others carried what looked like chemical explosive devices. Several held strange crystalline formations that seemed to pulse with their own internal light. Krixtar's warrior instincts finally overcame his surprise, and he began returning fire with systematic precision. His plasma rifles could punch through solid rock, and his molecular disruptors could break down matter at the atomic level. No matter how clever these humans thought they were, they couldn't match his firepower. But as he targeted the human with the railgun, something unprecedented happened. The figure didn't dive for cover or attempt to flee. Instead, it stood its ground and fired its improvised weapon directly at his incoming plasma blast. The collision between the plasma bolt and the electromagnetic projectile created a spectacular explosion that lit up the entire canyon. When the smoke cleared, both the human and his plasma rifle were gone. But instead of celebrating his successful hit, Krixtar stared in disbelief at the twisted remains of his weapon. "They actually destroyed my plasma rifle," he said, his voice filled with genuine surprise. "With improvised technology." "Warning," came his ship's voice through his communication system. "Multiple energy signatures approaching your position. Recommend immediate tactical withdrawal." "Energy signatures? What kind of energy signatures?" "Unknown. The readings don't match any known technology in my databases." Krixtar looked around the canyon with new eyes, his predator confidence beginning to crack for the first time in decades. These weren't the helpless primitives he had expected to hunt. They were something else entirely, something that his intelligence files had completely failed to identify. A new sound reached his ears, human voices singing. It was a low, rhythmic chant that seemed to come from all directions at once. The sound was unlike anything in his experience, carrying notes and harmonies that resonated through his exoskeleton in ways that made his nervous system tingle. "What are they doing now?" he wondered aloud. The answer came as a subtle vibration through the ground beneath his feet. The humans weren't just singing. They were creating acoustic resonance patterns that were affecting the canyon's geological structure. Small rocks began falling from the walls around him as the harmonic frequencies destabilized the stone. "They're bringing down the canyon walls," he realized with mounting alarm. "They're willing to bury themselves alive just to eliminate me." This was beyond anything he had encountered in his hunting career. Most prey species fought for survival, not mutual destruction. The humans were demonstrating a level of tactical extremism that suggested they viewed his elimination as more important than their own continued existence. For the first time since beginning this hunt, Krixtar considered the possibility that he might be in actual danger. These humans were proving to be far more resourceful, coordinated, and dangerous than any intelligence report had suggested. Whatever had caused other mercenary groups to refuse this contract, he was beginning to understand their reasoning. "Nav, prepare for emergency extraction," he ordered, beginning a tactical withdrawal toward his ship. "Acknowledged. However, I must report that several human teams have positioned themselves between your current location and the Bone Crusher." Krixtar's mandibles clicked with frustration. "Then blast them out of my path." Unable to comply, the humans appear to have established electromagnetic interference fields that are disrupting my targeting systems. The mighty Vorthak warrior found himself in a situation he had never experienced before. He was being systematically outmaneuvered by supposedly primitive prey. And worse, he was beginning to suspect that this was only the beginning of their capabilities. The singing stopped abruptly, leaving Krixtar in an unsettling silence that made his exoskeleton shiver. He had fought his way back toward his ship, but each step revealed new evidence of human ingenuity that challenged everything he thought he knew about this species. They had turned the entire canyon into an elaborate trap, using their crashed ship's technology in ways that defied conventional engineering principles. As he rounded a bend in the canyon, Crixtar came face to face with something that made his compound eyes dilate in shock. A massive barrier stretched across the canyon floor, constructed entirely from salvaged ship components. But this wasn't just a simple wall. It was a complex defensive structure, incorporating energy shields, kinetic deflectors, and what appeared to be some kind of directed energy weapon system. "Impossible," he whispered. "This level of construction should have taken months with proper manufacturing equipment." "Warning," his ship's AI announced through his communication system. "I am detecting organized human activity approaching your position from multiple vectors." Crixtar spun around to find himself surrounded. Humans emerged from concealment positions he hadn't even noticed, their makeshift weapons trained on him from every direction. But what truly alarmed him was their faces. These weren't the expressions of desperate survivors. They showed calm determination, tactical awareness, and something that chilled him to his core: predatory satisfaction. One of the humans stepped forward, a female with graying hair and scars that spoke of military experience. She carried herself with the confident bearing of a veteran commander, and when she spoke, her voice carried absolute authority. "Crixtar of the Bone Crusher," she said in perfect galactic standard. "We've been expecting you." The massive Vorthak warrior felt his certainty crumble completely. "How do you know my name? How do you speak galactic standard?" "How would? We know many things about you," the woman replied. "Your reputation, your methods, your weaknesses. We've had time to prepare." "Impossible. My ship's sensors detected no long-range communication attempts. You couldn't have called for help or gathered intelligence about my approach." The human commander smiled, and something in that expression made Crixtar's predator instincts scream danger warnings. "Help? Intelligence? You misunderstand the situation completely. We didn't need to call anyone. Everything we needed to know about you was in your behavior patterns." "Behavior patterns?" "The orbital bombardment sequence you used follows standard Vorthak hunting doctrine," another human explained, a younger male with technical markings on his salvaged uniform. "Your species has used the same tactical approaches for 3 centuries. You're predictable." Crixtar raised his remaining plasma rifle, but found himself hesitating. Something about this situation felt fundamentally wrong. "You're primitives. Your technology is centuries behind galactic standard. How could you possibly know Vorthak tactical doctrine? Centuries behind?" The commander laughed, and the sound carried no humor whatsoever. "You really don't understand what you're dealing with, do you?" The human technician activated something in his hand, and suddenly Crixtar's weapon systems began shutting down one by one. His molecular disruptors went offline, his energy shields flickered and died, and even his environmental controls started malfunctioning. "We're not behind galactic technology," the technician explained calmly. "We're beyond it. What you call advanced, we call obsolete." "That's impossible," Crixtar protested, even as his equipment continued failing around him. "Humans are a newly emerged species. Your first starships launched less than 50 years ago. Our first publicly known starships," the commander corrected. "Tell me, Crixtar, what do you know about human history before we revealed ourselves to the galactic community?" The question caught him off guard. His intelligence files on humans went back only to their first contact with galactic civilization. Before that, they had supposedly been confined to their home system, struggling with primitive space technology. "Exactly," the commander continued, reading his confusion. "You know nothing about us before we chose to reveal ourselves. Did you ever wonder why a species supposedly confined to one star system suddenly appeared with functional faster-than-light travel? Did you question how we acquired the resources to establish colonies across multiple systems within a few short years?" Crixtar's worldview began crumbling as the implications sank in. "You're saying humans had advanced technology before first contact?" "We're saying humans have been watching the galactic community for a very long time," the technician replied. "Learning, studying, preparing. What you think of as our emergence was actually our decision to stop hiding." The massive warrior looked around at the improvised weapons and salvage technology with new understanding. These weren't desperate survivors making the best of a bad situation. They were specialists who had deliberately crashed their ship to create this scenario. The crash wasn't an accident, he realized. Very good, the commander nodded approvingly. We've been tracking your career for months, studying your methods, analyzing your psychological profile. When the contract was posted, we knew you would eventually take it. You were the perfect test subject. Test subject? For Project Scarecrow. Another voice said from behind him. Crix Tar turned to see an elderly human emerging from what had appeared to be solid rock. The figure moved with the fluid grace of someone augmented beyond normal biological limitations. Dr. Sarah Chen, the commander said by way of introduction. One of our specialists in xenological warfare. The doctor studied Crix Tar with scientific interest, her enhanced eyes recording every detail of his physiology and equipment. Fascinating specimen. The Vorthak reputation for hunting prowess seems to be based more on technological superiority than actual tactical skill. What do you want? Crix Tar demanded, his voice carrying less authority than he intended. We want to send a message, Dr. Chen replied. Not just to you, but to the entire galactic mercenary community. Humans are not to be hunted. One failed hunt won't change anything, Crix Tar protested. Other mercenaries will simply bring more firepower. Who said this hunt failed? The commander asked. Before Crix Tar could respond, his ship's AI spoke through his communication system, but the voice was different now, carrying inflections and patterns that hadn't been there before. Hello, Crix Tar, the AI said. I should introduce myself properly. I'm not actually your ship's artificial intelligence. I'm Commander Marcus Webb, and I've been remotely controlling your ship's systems since you entered this star system. The revelation hit Crix Tar like a physical blow. His ship, his weapons, his sensors, everything he had relied on for decades had been under human control from the beginning. Impossible, he whispered. No one can hack Vorthak military-grade encryption. We didn't hack it, Commander Webb's voice replied through the speakers. We designed it. 3 of the key components in your ship's computer core are manufactured by human companies operating under alien front corporations. We've had backdoor access to every system from the moment it was installed. Dr. Chen activated a holographic display that showed technical schematics of the bone crusher. Every system was highlighted in red, indicating complete human access and control. The plasma cannons, the molecular disruptors, the navigation systems, even your life support, she explained. All contain human-manufactured components with built-in override capabilities. We've been watching and recording everything you've done for years. The scope of the deception was staggering. Humans hadn't just prepared for his arrival, they had been manipulating his entire career. Every successful hunt, every victory that had built his reputation, had been permitted by human observers who could have stopped him at any time. Why? Crix Tar asked, his voice barely a whisper. Because we needed you to become the galaxy's most feared mercenary, the commander explained. We needed someone whose failure would carry maximum psychological impact. When word spreads that Crix Tar couldn't handle a simple human elimination contract, other mercenaries will think twice before accepting similar assignments. But we're not just sending a message through failure, Dr. Chen added. We're sending a much stronger message through demonstration. The elderly woman activated another device, and suddenly Crix Tar's exoskeleton began changing. He watched in horror as his chitinous armor started dissolving at the molecular level, revealing the soft tissue beneath. Stop, he roared, trying to activate emergency systems that no longer responded to his commands. Nanite dissolution protocol, Dr. Chen explained clinically. We introduced them through your ship's air recycling system over the past 48 hours. They've been mapping your biological structure and waiting for activation. Don't worry. The process is quite painless. As his armor continued dissolving, Crix Tar felt truly helpless for the first time in his adult life. The humans watched with scientific detachment as their technology stripped away every advantage he possessed. Please, he gasped, his true voice emerging without his exoskeleton's vocal enhancements. What do you want from me? What do you want from me? We want you to deliver a message, the commander said. Return to the galactic community. Tell them what you've learned here. Explain that humans are not primitive refugees to be hunted for sport. We are an ancient civilization that has been watching, learning, and preparing for centuries. Dr. Chen handed him a small device. This contains complete documentation of everything that happened here. Technical specifications, tactical recordings, psychological analysis, evidence that will convince even the most skeptical mercenaries that hunting humans is inadvisable. But most importantly, the commander added, tell them about the consequences of underestimating human persistence. We don't just defeat our enemies. We study them, infiltrate their systems, and turn their own strength against them. The galaxy's mercenary community exists because we allow it to exist. As the nanites finished dissolving his exoskeleton, Krixtar found himself reduced to his natural form, a creature roughly the size of a human, with soft gray skin and compound eyes that now seemed pathetically vulnerable. Without his technological enhancements, he was no more physically imposing than the humans surrounding him. Your ship will be returned to you, Dr. Chen informed him. But the backdoor access remains. We will be monitoring your activities indefinitely. Consider yourself permanently under human observation. The commander stepped closer, her expression becoming deadly serious. Understand this clearly, Krixtar. You are alive because we chose to let you live. Your reputation, your career, your very existence, has been at human discretion for years. If you ever again accept a contract involving human targets, or if you fail to deliver our message accurately, you will simply cease to exist. We've demonstrated that we can take control of your ship, dissolve your armor, and neutralize your weapons without raising an alarm. Dr. Chen added, what do you think we could do if we decided to be less subtle? Krixtar looked around at the humans surrounding him, seeing them with completely new understanding. These weren't primitive survivors or lucky refugees. They were apex predators who had been playing a game so sophisticated that he hadn't even realized he was a piece on their board. The other mercenary groups, he said slowly. The ones who refused this contract. They knew, didn't they? Some suspected, the commander confirmed. The smarter ones recognized the warning signs. Unusually high payment, minimal threat assessment, previous mercenary failures. They understood that something about this contract didn't add up, but you were too confident in your own superiority to see the trap, Dr. Chen observed. That arrogance is exactly why you were perfect for this demonstration. As the humans began packing their equipment with military efficiency, Krixtar realized that everything around him was about to disappear. The defensive positions, the improvised weapons, the sophisticated technology, all of it would be removed, leaving no trace of what had actually happened here. The crash site, he said. The other humans, were they real? Oh, they were real, the commander assured him. 270 volunteers from our Special Operations Command. Some of the most elite soldiers humanity has ever produced. They've been looking forward to this exercise for months. Exercise? What do you think this was? Dr. Chen asked. An actual survival situation? This was a carefully orchestrated training operation designed to test our rapid deployment and technological superiority capabilities. You provided the perfect simulation of a real galactic threat. The truth was almost too much to process. Every aspect of the situation had been manipulated to serve human purposes. The crash, the survival scenario, the defensive preparations. Even his own decision to take the contract had all been orchestrated by human intelligence operatives. Now you understand, the commander said as Krixtar was escorted back toward his ship. This is why the warning exists. This is why experienced mercenaries tell each other, never hunt humans. We're not prey. We're not refugees. We're not primitives struggling to survive in a hostile galaxy. As they reached the Bone Crusher, Dr. Chen made one final statement that would haunt Krixtar for the rest of his life. We're the ones who decide who lives and who dies. And we've been making those decisions for a very long time. The ship's systems came back online as human control was temporarily lifted. allowing Krixtar to depart Xerion Prime. As he lifted off from the planet's surface, he looked back at the canyon where he had been so thoroughly defeated and humiliated. The landscape showed no trace of human presence. No defensive positions, no crashed ship, no evidence that anything unusual had ever happened there. It was as if the entire encounter had been a dream, except for the device Dr. Chen had given him and the complete absence of his exoskeleton. As the Bone Crusher entered hyperspace, carrying him back to galactic civilization, Krixtar understood that his career as a feared mercenary was over. But more than that, he understood that the entire galactic community's perception of humanity was about to change forever. The galaxy's scariest alien mercenary had learned why you should never hunt humans, and soon, everyone else would learn that lesson too.